If you are seeing synchronicities right now, this is not random, and it is not your imagination either. You were taught to brush these moments off, to explain them away, to say it was luck or chance or timing. But something inside you knows better, because when it happens it feels personal. It stops you in your tracks, it makes you pause, and for a second, everything feels connected. Like reality leaned in and whispered your name. That is not coincidence. That is communication. Let me explain it in a way that feels real. Imagine waking up one morning already feeling off, not bad, just aware. Then you see the same number 3 times before noon. On your phone, on a receipt, on a license plate. Later, a song plays that matches exactly what you were thinking about, and that night you hear a stranger say a sentence that answers a question you never spoke out loud. You try to ignore it. You tell yourself it is nothing, but your body knows. Something is happening. And the truth is this: when synchronicities show up, your life is not drifting, it is adjusting. You are not lost, you are recalibrating. These moments appear when an old version of you starts to loosen its grip and a new version begins to come online. They show up when your inner world shifts even slightly, when your thoughts, your emotions, and your sense of identity start pointing somewhere new, and the field responds, not with words, with patterns, with timing, with mirrors. Synchronicities are not signs to admire. They are signals to respond to. They are moments where reality checks in and asks, are you paying attention? Are you ready to move? Most people miss this part. They think seeing a sign means they are special. But that is not the point. The point is movement. A synchronicity is an invitation. It is a doorway. And the way you respond determines what opens next. If nothing seems to be happening lately, if it feels quiet or flat, that is not failure. That is feedback. It means your signal is scattered. Too much noise, too much overthinking, too much holding on to an identity that no longer fits. The future you want is already broadcasting. But you have to tune yourself to hear it. This is personal growth in its real form, not forcing positivity, not waiting for miracles, but becoming honest about who you are being. Synchronicities appear when you are closest to alignment, not when you are desperate. They show up when you start listening to yourself again, when you slow down enough to notice how your body reacts, when you choose courage over comfort even in small ways. And here is the key. You do not chase synchronicities. You stabilize the state that creates them. You focus on clarity, on consistency, on choosing thoughts that match the life you want to live. You act before certainty arrives. You move even when it feels uncomfortable. And then reality meets you halfway. That is how manifestation actually works. Not wishing, not waiting, matching. When you see a synchronicity, ask yourself, who am I becoming right now? What part of me is waking up? What am I being asked to step into? Because every meaningful coincidence is pointing to an identity shift. And identity is what shapes your future. This is the first part most people never integrate. Synchronicities are not about the event. They are about the version of you that can notice them. As this awareness deepens, something else starts to happen. You realize that time does not work the way you were taught. Your future is not far away. It is not waiting at the end of a straight line. It already exists as a possibility that becomes real when you align with it. Think about that. There is a version of you who already made the decision you are afraid to make, who already healed what you are still carrying, who already lives with the confidence you are practicing, and synchronicities are how that version reaches back. not to impress you, but to guide you. When you feel that pull towards something new and the signs start stacking, that is not the universe teasing you. That is alignment trying to lock in, but alignment requires consistency. This is where people lose momentum. They feel inspired for a moment. Then doubt creeps in, old habits return, the signal weakens, and the window closes. Not because you were rejected, but because you changed the channel. Manifestation is not about intensity, it is about stability. It is about staying in the state long enough for reality to reorganize. When you keep thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and telling the same story about yourself, you keep activating the same timeline. Growth happens when you interrupt that loop, even briefly. A new choice, a new response, a new boundary. That is enough to create a ripple, and the field answers with synchronicity. This is how you know you are on track, not because everything feels easy, but because things start lining up in ways you could not plan. A conversation at the right moment, an idea that lands fully formed, a delay that protects you, a redirection that saves you time. These are not random. They are course corrections. The more you trust yourself, the clearer they become. And trust is built through action. Small, brave actions taken consistently. You do not wait to feel ready. You move and readiness follows. That is the mindset shift. That is the growth edge. When something ends suddenly or falls apart, it is often because it cannot come with you. Your future requires space, and synchronicities sometimes arrive as endings, not beginnings. That does not mean you failed. It means you outgrew something. Pay attention to what is leaving as much as what is appearing. Both are guidance. Both are part of the same conversation. And here is something important. Stop asking, what does this mean? And start asking, what does this require? Because meaning without movement changes nothing. Synchronicities increase when you demonstrate availability, when you show that you are willing to respond, to adjust, to take responsibility for your energy. This is where manifestation becomes grounded. You focus less on outcomes and more on embodiment. How would the version of you who already has this think today? How would they speak? What would they stop tolerating? What would they prioritize? And then you practice that now. That is how timelines shift, not overnight, but decisively. When you do this, you will notice something powerful. The signs become more specific, less flashy, more precise, because you no longer need reassurance. You need direction, and direction comes when you are steady, when your nervous system feels safe enough to hold expansion. Growth is not about pushing harder. It is about becoming coherent. When your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions point the same way, reality responds quickly. That is when synchronicities feel constant, not overwhelming, just natural, like you are finally in rhythm with your own life. Eventually you reach a point where you stop being surprised by synchronicities, not because they stop, but because you understand the language. You realize they were never outside of you. They were reflections of your internal state all along. This is where real confidence forms. Quiet, grounded, unshakable. You stop waiting for signs to give you permission. You move first, and the field follows. This is the shift from seeking to leading, from asking to embodying. Your future self is not a fantasy. It is an active presence. It responds when you act in alignment with what you already know. Every time you choose honesty over avoidance, every time you choose growth over familiarity, every time you choose presence over distraction, you strengthen that connection. And life responds, faster, cleaner, with less friction. You become someone who trusts themselves. And that trust is magnetic. Opportunities show up because you are ready. People align because you are clear. Decisions become simpler because you are no longer split. This is the state where manifestation feels effortless, not because you stopped trying, but because you stopped resisting. Synchronicities still appear, but now they feel like confirmation of momentum, not motivation to begin. You no longer need the universe to convince you. You are already moving, and when you live this way, you become a signal yourself. Your energy affects rooms. Your presence shifts conversations. You inspire movement in others without trying. This is not about ego. It is about integrity, being who you say you are becoming. And here is the truth that ties it all together. The reason synchronicities feel meaningful is because they are reminders, not of something outside you, but of who you are when you are aligned. They show you that you are not stuck, that you are not late, that you are not disconnected. You are in conversation with life, always have been. The more you listen, the clearer it gets. The more you act, the more it responds. So if you are seeing synchronicities right now, do not pause your life to analyze them. Let them move you. Let them sharpen you. Let them remind you that growth is happening even when it feels subtle. And choose to meet that moment with courage, because the path does not open for those who wait. It opens for those who respond. And the moment you do, everything begins to organize around that decision. When you realize something quietly unsettling, the signs are not slowing down. They are getting closer, more specific, more personal. And that usually happens when you are standing at the edge of a shift you can no longer avoid. Is where synchronicities stop feeling cute and start feeling urgent. Because now they are not just pointing things out, they are asking something of you. Action, honesty, movement. This is the phase where growth stops being theoretical. You cannot just think your way forward anymore. You have to choose who you are becoming in real time. Most people feel resistance here. They feel tired. Doubt creeps in. Old patterns try to pull them back. And that makes sense, because the version of you that brought you this far is about to be replaced. And the ego does not like replacement. So it stalls, it overanalyzes, it waits for certainty. But certainty never comes first. Alignment does. And synchronicities appear to test that alignment, to see if you will trust what you already feel, or retreat into what feels safe. This is where many manifestations pause, not because they are not meant for you, but because you hesitate at the threshold. You get the nudge, you feel the pull, and instead of stepping forward, you ask for one more sign. But here is the truth. The sign already came. Now the field is watching your response. Because response is the language of commitment. When you act, you send a clear signal. I am ready. When you delay, you send another. Not yet. And the field adjusts accordingly. This is not punishment. It is precision. Life responds to momentum, not intention. And momentum only comes from movement. This is why personal growth feels uncomfortable right before expansion. You are being asked to leave familiar ground, to stop identifying with the story that kept you small, to let go of excuses that once protected you, and synchronicities appear as mirrors to show you where you are still holding back. Pay attention to what repeats, not just numbers or symbols, but situations, emotional reactions, themes in conversations. These patterns reveal where growth is required, not where you are broken, but where you are being invited to mature. This is manifestation in its grounded form, becoming the kind of person who can hold what you say you want. That means regulating your emotions, choosing discipline over impulse, choosing presence over distraction, and most of all, choosing self-trust over external validation. When you do this, something shifts internally. You stop needing reassurance. You start recognizing resonance. You know when something is aligned because your body relaxes into it even. If your mind is unsure, you know when something is off because it drains you even if it looks good on paper. This is discernment, and synchronicities sharpen it. They train you to listen deeper, to notice faster, to respond cleaner. But only if you are willing to move. Because insight without action becomes frustration, and frustration is often just unused clarity. This part of the journey is not flashy. It is quiet and decisive. It looks like making the call you keep avoiding, setting the boundary you keep delaying, saying no where you used to say yes, saying yes where you used to hide. These choices do not feel magical, but they are powerful because they rewire your identity, and identity is the root of every future you will experience. As you commit to these shifts, you may notice resistance from the outside. People misunderstand you. Opportunities fall away. Timing feels strange. That is normal. You are no longer matching your old environment. The field is rearranging, and rearrangement feels messy before it feels aligned. Do not mistake discomfort for misalignment. Growth often feels like uncertainty because you are no longer operating on autopilot. You are choosing consciously, and conscious choice requires presence. This is where synchronicities change tone. They become quieter but sharper, less frequent but more exact, because you no longer need constant reminders. You are already listening. And when you listen consistently, life stops shouting. It starts collaborating. This is the middle stretch where manifestation becomes embodied. You are not visualizing a different life. You are practicing being the person who lives it. And that is what makes the difference.